This is money, and I don't have any because I just spent $3,000 on these two terrifying machines to see how much money I can make wood turning pens. If you look at this pen and you wonder who made it, the answer is probably this starving Chinese kid in a sweatshop factory. If you look at this pen on Etsy, the main difference is the $40 price tag. Now, I would love $40, but sadly they won't hire me because I'm not technically Chinese. This presented two options: either consume vast quantities of rice and legally identify as a person from China, or I could try to make the pens myself. I really hate rice, so I chose option B. I needed wood. Fortunately, a week ago I executed a brilliant financial trade, my mini quad for a full-size quad. Bye quad. Hello, slightly bigger quad. While attaching it to my mate's golf buggy, because it doesn't run, I noticed he had several slabs of wood over from that tornado a few Christmases ago. I gave him $50, and just like that, I was the proud owner of a highly cracked slab of native Australian hardwood.
Don't burn this one down.
Now, I needed a lathe to make the pens. That's the device that spins the wood at 3,000 RPM. It has, according to my research, tragically killed 20 people this year. There were two options. I called the shop, and the man said the difference was chalk and cheese. I still have no idea what dairy or limestone has to do with this. Regardless, I grabbed my keys, jumped in the car, and after almost getting stranded in the middle of the outback, we arrived at the store. They sell everything, from this simple bandsaw, ideal for 2-second amputation, to this larger one, for if you're in a hurry. So I bought a lathe, a bandsaw, and a shockingly expensive rough and gouge. As all my old wood turning tools are completely wrecked from the shed fire, and I needed to turn new handles for all of them. Now, I also needed a sharpener. Unfortunately, their display grinder was sold, but fortunately, the owner pulled one out from the back that he let go for $200, a steal. Now, after setting everything up, I started to make the handles, as I can't make pens without tools. I just grabbed a plank of wood I salvaged from the old shed fire and attempted to cut a nice big chunk out of it. And I absolutely hate this tool. It not only has the most terrifying warning stickers I've ever seen on a machine, but it is severely underpowered. It keeps stopping every 2 centimeters. And this thing cost $500. But eventually, 10 minutes later, I was finished.
Yes, finally. I'm not looking forward at all to cut up that massive slab, but it works. That was the most powerful mini bandsaw they had there. I'm glad I didn't get the 1/3 horsepower one. That has half horsepower. Anyway, let's cut it up into little slits.
Time to cut the wood to length of the bandsaw. Wait, no, it doesn't fit. So, I just used my underpowered circular saw. Now, this lathe is terrifying. It spins this square piece of wood at 3,000 RPM. And these machines are notorious for sucking in people's hands and ripping them off. But the real danger is the lathe launching wood straight into your face, which would suck, as my full face shield is currently missing. But let's play some jazz and let's wood turn these handles.
Great, they just broke. That was $20 in a TAFE vending machine. Man, the amount of splinters I keep getting.
So I just started winging it and shaping the handle out. And wood turning is fantastic. I would highly recommend to anyone who doesn't mind coughing up lung material for a week from all the wood and dust. I should probably be wearing a mask, but I could do with my voice being a bit deeper, so I won't bother. I think they turned out great. Now, I need to remove the rust from all the tools as they've been sitting in a box in the middle of my garden for a year. So I borrowed some of my mum's vinegar and submerged all the tools in it.
Hey Rusty.
Now, the great thing about this method is that when you're done, you can just pour it right back into the bowl. And just like that, you've created reclaimed brown vinegar. We've been doing this for centuries, and our family has enjoyed long, happy lives free from iron deficiencies. And then I kind of forgot about it, and I went on a 5-day holiday to the Gold Coast. So I hope the vinegar is only eating the rust and not, the structural integrity of the $1,000 worth of tools. But after 5 days of swimming in the ocean, I was now back, and it seems that the vinegar has created a layer of this weird froth on the surface, which was actually really satisfying to play with, and I now probably have tetanus. Now, I needed to clean the acid off the tools. I tried using my mum's dishwashing sponge, but it did absolutely nothing, so I just put it back and stole my dad's pressure washer instead. That night I was doom scrolling and I saw a guy putting a handle on a knife by heating up the metal and shoving the wood into it. So I just drilled a hole in the handle and shoved the red hot steel in the hole. They are a bit wonky, but personally I just think that adds character. With the tool sharpened, it was now time to make the pens. I needed thin pen blanks from this slab, but I realised I couldn't wrestle the massive slab on my own to the bandsaw since I skipped arm day, so I just cut a chunk off with my circular saw to make it manageable. Now, as I said before, this wood was actually from a cyclone a few years ago. Over 100 trees fell down in my area.
That is way too loud. I want to get some earmuffs before I lose all hearing in my ears.
So Kane and his dad brought a few of these trees home and sliced them up with their sawmill.
Yeah, I think this might be oak. It looks pretty good.
I'm actually thinking about making my own sawmill by buying one of these adapters that fits on the chainsaw. Leave it in the comments what's a good one to get. This is where the trouble started. The blade kept wandering off my line. Now, instantly, I decided it was the blade's fault, mainly because I just wanted an excuse to use this hardened steel one I got for free from the woodworking store. Now, this was a massive mistake. I just didn't know it yet. I spent forever struggling with this knob on the top, thinking it would loosen the blade. After realizing I forgot to turn the machine off, I finally got the blade removed without losing any fingers. Putting the new one on was terrifying. The second I unclipped it, it snapped right up towards my head and almost went Mike Tyson on my ear. After struggling for way too long, I finally discovered the quick release lever, which I should have used. I had just muddled with a finely tuned system, which I wasn't supposed to touch. Now, I turned the machine on and it made a terrible rattling noise. If it made any other sound, I'd be fine. But the sudden random every time I cut wood completely freaked me out. When I used the bandsaw, I'm already on edge, and every clank felt like my finger was getting chopped off. So to deal with this terrifying noise, I just put on my dirt bike helmet. My reasoning was, if it can protect me from going deaf when I ride my dirt bike, it should protect me here. But when the blade finally popped off randomly, I knew I had to fix the machine. Eventually, I managed to get the knob back to the exact spot it had been before I messed with it, and the terrible noises suddenly just went away. I also realized the blade guard was cranked all the way up. That's the most dangerous position it could be in, and that's why the blade was flexing. It wasn't the blade's fault. With that fixed, I ripped my strips, cut them in half, and then cut those little strips into little pieces about 6 centimeters long. Just the right length for the brass tubes I needed to glue inside the pen blanks. I also remembered I had a respirator, and since I started waking up in the middle of the night with massive nosebleeds, I decided to start wearing it. It is rated for paint fumes, but I'm pretty sure paint fumes are smaller than dust particles, so I should be fine. Leave it in the comments why it was making that noise. I think it was the tension of the blade, but I'm most likely wrong. Now, the tool that I should be using here would be a miter saw, but I don't have one, and I don't think I can put a miter saw blade on my metal offcut saw, so I made do with what I had. I looked at the pen blanks and I decided some of them needed a flare, so they would sell for more money. I grabbed a piece of red gum or red oak, I'm not quite sure what it is, I just know that it cost me $30, and I sliced a thin strip of it. I then cut a diagonal line through one of the blanks and shoved the strip into the middle and glued it up with some CA glue. Now, apparently CA glue is a pathogen that causes cancer and infertility, and since I'd love a son one day to edit these videos for me, I ended up just chilling outside for an hour while the fumes went away. While I was out there, I researched what other things I was using were toxic, and turns out literally everything in this shed is trying to kill me. The wood, which I'm pretty sure is oak, literally causes nasal cancer. It's insane. Now, after waiting outside for an hour, I grabbed my belt sander, which I borrowed from my grandma, and sanded the blank a bit to reveal the pattern until the belt randomly snapped in half, but I think it looks pretty cool. Which is your favourite blank set?
You like that one? That's red gum through the middle.
I like that.
Do you like this one the most?
I like that one the most.
Okay.
Now, to drill the holes, the traditional way is to use a lathe and chuck. Spin the wood really fast and drill. But after watching about 100 Reddit videos of people getting pulled in as the chuck catches their clothes and their entire body just turns into a red mist, plus the insane $300 price tag on a single chuck, I decided against it. Now, the second option is a $140 drill press, which I also don't have. So I went with the least recommended option. I grabbed my drill and freehanded it. I found an old vise that had been sitting outside in the rain for years, and after lubing it up and freeing the handle from all the rust, and probably getting more tetanus, I used it to hold the blanks. This went surprisingly well. My hand-eye coordination is terrible, but I somehow managed not to drill out the side of any blanks. Apart from a few wobbly holes, everything is usable. I roughed up the copper tubes on the concrete floor to give the CA glue a better grip. I then glued in all the brass tubes and then flattened the ends with whatever this is called. 20 minutes later, I was finally ready to wood turn. I hooked up my expensive pen mandrel. This was exciting. I could finally see the full power of my lathe. Before, when I was wood turning the handles for my tools, I kept it at 2000 RPM because I didn't want to be like this guy. But turning a small pen, I could really crank it up to the max speed of 3200 RPM. If you're one of my 59 subscribers and you're wondering why I just randomly decide to start wood turning pens and not keep trying to bring my electric skateboard powered by drill batteries to the market, that's because I realized that I would have to spend $50,000 on government product testing before I can legally sell it to anyone. And I had a little joke where I was like, please don't sue me. And then I did some research and apparently they could actually sue me. So I decided to go back to my roots and start making things with my hands, not talking with Chinese men and definitely not sitting up late trying to 3D model adapters for drill batteries. I'm not giving up on this idea, I'm just holding off for a bit. And since I now need a side hustle to compensate for my $13 an hour wage, I'm now doing what I did when I was 13 to earn some extra money for tuck shop. Wood turning pens. The great thing about wood turning pens is that it is extremely satisfying and extremely wasteful. Like 90% of the blank ends up on the floor. So hopefully I will go viral like this rage baiter wasting food for clout. But instead of wasting food, it's wood. There was actually no point of me restoring those wood turning tools as I literally just used my roughing gouge the whole time. After wet sanding it, I finished it with some olive oil, mostly because I didn't want to spend $20 on this varnish. And I can also say in the description that this pen is food grade. I went on Thingiverse and 3D printed a pen press that fits right into my lathe. The old way I used to do it when I was 13 was using a clamp, but the blanks always slipped out and this way is way better. I ended up with 4 pens as I lost one insert on the 5th pen. So 4 it is, until I find the insert in this pile of sawdust. Now it's time to turn these pens into some nice cold hard cash. I could sell these pens on a few different platforms: eBay, Etsy, Facebook Marketplace, or a stall. I've sold quite a things on Etsy already when I was 13, but it takes a 30% cut. Now, I've also sold pens at a market, but they ended up taking about $10 per pen. And since I used to sell these pens for $20, that put my hourly rate at $2.50. And I've decided against Facebook Marketplace as I don't want a crack addict turning up at my front door. So, I'm going with eBay. I borrowed my mum's end table, gave it a splash of oil to make it pop, and shot some really professional photos with my phone. The 3 standard pens, I've decided to sell them for $30 each, and the pen with a special inlay, I decided to auction it off, as I'm hoping 2 rich people will really like it and start a bidding war. Alright, looks like I got my first bite, and it came from someone called Bob Downey, who decided to compliment me on my hands. I shot back with a simple thanks, to be polite. Then I hit him with a hard sell. Would you like to purchase a pen? I made it with those hands. He replied with, can you send me feet pics? And just like that, I made my first sale without having to sell a single pen. The next nibble I got was from Jeffrey, who taught me to wash my hands. Now, I'm starting to feel really insecure. Maybe I should have washed them before I took those photos. But then I realized something. I don't need to try and cold sell to random weirdos online. I've already got you guys. A small loyal community that watches every stupid video I put out. So the link to purchase the pens is in the description. Subscribe.